there's some sort of change management department or something like that. But what has to happen in that is it has to be analytics based, and it has to be baked into the project where we're measuring things like milestones through sentiments and things like that. It's absolutely critical, but I think just the core of like the standalone change management is changing, and that's becoming more of like a core technology strategy within the IT team, so that way, as with the modern IT team, right, goes from what they used to be like ticket order takers, right, computer fixers, they're in their cave basement, to something else that is being able to be a productive, not just cost center, but value chain in the business. And that's a big piece that we look at. So let's see. So I would love to know, like, for ERP implementations specifically, that's going to, it depends on, your setup. That's going to bridge the gap between, if you're a larger organization, the enterprise PMO, the Office of Project Management, and then also what you're actually getting and how familiar your team is with that system. So like if you're on Microsoft Business Central right now and you're going to D365, right, it's still a Microsoft product. But if you're going from Oracle to SAP, that's a massive change, right? So we're going to need to understand what those competencies are in-house. So extreme iron curtain, suspect everyone, curfews and restricted movements. Damn, that's a crazy ass castle. No particular system, just curious about system design. Absolutely, a bunch of no trust pirates. Can we get Jason Bourne? Absolutely. I'm always down for Jason Bourne. I try and get my kids to watch like those marathons with me, and I just feel like they're not there yet. They're 5 and 7, so they're like, this is not interesting whatsoever. But I have hope. Let's see. All right, so let's keep pulling on the kind of that. So we've got cybersecurity, we've got the change management thread. And I think the bigger piece of like when we look at that from a holistic strategy standpoint, we've got to know like what is the issue and what's the problem we're trying to solve. Is it everybody hates this implementation because we had a failed implementation 2 years ago? Or is it because we have no cybersecurity competencies in-house? So we really actually need to understand what that looks like from a security standpoint, especially if we're doing things that, involve AI. Right? My favorite clients are clients that are put everything in SharePoint, have Copilot, but they think they're secure. Absolutely. What's the biggest consideration when upgrading any system? Integrations? No, right? First would be cost, in my humble opinion, right? So if we go into an evaluation, we're going to get a variety of different quotes from different vendors, right? And I'm talking typically private sector is where I work, right? Cost, then security, fair enough. So when we get these different quotes, we're going to look at them and understand that there's going to be like millions of dollars in between these licenses fees. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but we've got to understand what the total cost of ownership is, right? So it's not just the license, it's, the maintenance fees, it's all of these different pieces that go in. So we've got to then dig into the agreements. And a lot of businesses get very, very impatient with this process, but it's a huge process, right? We have to know that we're essentially, am I in Miami? Absolutely not. But it is raining, which it never rains here. I'm in Colorado. And that's a big consideration when we're looking at those types of things. And what we're trying to solve on that problem. See, we got cost and security. You've got to read all the contracts in that type of understanding to know like what that level of investment is, and do a whole analysis on like, are you going to be able to absorb that year over year in the subscription fees?